Good morning for the ones who just arrived. Just for the sermon. And before I start, anybody wants to offer $1 million right now? Okay. What? Okay. $500,000. No, I'm kidding. All right. So here we go. Let's have a seat. Put your phones away, unless they play the Avinu Malkeinu or something like that. Put your phones away for a second. Turn Siri off, because last year we had the special participation of Siri during High Holidays, if you remember well. Right? I think I say Shana Tova, and Siri said, yes. So here we go. Shana Tova umetuka to all of you, and welcome to 5786, a year that finds us together and celebrating the new year. A new year always represents a new beginning, a new hope. But this year also finds so many of us increasingly isolated, divided, still threatened, and still processing a lot of grief. As you know by now, I always like to start my Rosh Hashanah service and my sermon with a story, right? Or a joke, or something that has a moral. But this time, I had a hard time finding one that would be fitting. I even thought about the stories that start with a rabbi, a priest, and a minister walk into a bar, or something like that. I'm sure you have heard plenty of them, right? It's always a rabbi and either a priest, a minister, always something different, right? But always something that is opposite to the rabbi, right? So I discarded those jokes too, but the core idea behind them, the concept of us versus the other, the one that dresses differently, the one that praises God in a different way, the one that doesn't know us, the one who doesn't understand or doesn't even care to try, that did stay with me. Especially in these days of so much painful divisiveness and confrontation. And yes, it's a new year. And yet the events of the past few years, and certainly this past year, are still with us. Devastating wildfires that destroyed so many homes and affected so many lives and so many families. Rising anti-Semitism, political division, divisiveness at every level. To be honest, people are not together in so many ways. Hostages that are still captive, and war. The war spreading like those wildfires and rising like the hatred towards our people. And sadly, none of this is new. How do we embark upon a new year with a sense of hope and resilience when the negative seems to overpower the positive on so many levels? And how do we step into a new year with renewed hope, love, and faith, And not only faith in God, but in ourselves and in the whole world around us. How do we not lose ourselves to our grief? How do we not fall prey to the surrounding hatred or even the desire for revenge, which can be tempting at times, right? In spite of the fires, in spite of the indescribable losses, in spite of the wars, the hatred, and the overall injustices that never seem to end, how do we go on? The task this new year proposes is not an easy one. On the contrary, it may seem quite daunting, but I challenge us to accept it. So, how do we start? Where do we find consolation and purpose? I'm a true believer that while most of the outside circumstances are sadly out of our control, there is always a little, tiny piece of this chaotic world that we can always change, and change for the better. And that is ourselves. Just pause and think about it. Change ourselves. Challenge yourselves to be more, to be something different, something more than what we have been up until today. This is what this Rosh Hashanah 2025 sermon is about. To be more human and to be able to see the humanity in others. At least all the ones that still have some humanity in them, which I choose to believe is most of us. And to bring light. A little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness. It allows us to see in a dark room, in a dark world. With so many power outages recently in Malibu, you have no idea. I need to coordinate my life depending on the outages in Malibu. We are all certainly familiar with what it's like to be in the dark, right? So how do we go about transforming ourselves into agents of light? First, we need to identify what we want to change. In the words of author James Baldwin, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. We need to face ourselves, and we just read it in the Unetane Tokef, right? That is the task that I extend to you this year. Let's look inwards. Let's look at who we are right now. I'm Marcelo, a father, a rabbi, a teacher, a brother, a friend, multi-layered, like you. So let's transform ourselves and look for the best in ourselves, the deepest humanity we possess, and look for it in both ourselves and in others, whether we find it or not. Let's look for the part of us that loves sincerely, that longs for more love in the world. Let's be the love we may never have received. Perhaps we may find ourselves disappointed and frustrated, but we don't have to perpetuate those same feelings. Let's bring more love into this world than has ever been here before. That is healing the world. When we talk about Tikkun Olam, the Talmud says specifically in Mishnah Sanhedrin, anyone who saves a life is as if he or she or they saved an entire world. כל המקיים נפש אחד כאילו קיים עולם מלא. And that is the same principle that I want to propose as our motto for 5786. The challenge is not only to be resilient, to survive, but to grow and to help others to grow. It is easy to become cynical and lose our humanity, but nothing is more dangerous or prone to ignition than hearts and minds that are closed. It is harder, yet more meaningful, to persevere in our desire to see good and to persevere in keeping our hearts open to connection. But how not to become cynical with everything that's going on? How do we protect our mental health in times like these? How do we dare to trust again? How many times do we need to rebuild ourselves when there is always the threat of another fire, another injustice, another loss? How do we not break for good? It is hard to stay vulnerable, right? As Jewish people, we have the advantage of experiencing this field, for better or worse. Generations and generations of our people have been forced to be resilient for centuries. We have found resilience in our collective desire for good and belief in good. We accept the grief, but we also look forward to the future. It is in our power to make a conscious decision to believe in a future and to work towards it. I know that I can make this decision together today and start applying it to ourselves. Allow me to tell you a story. There was a Jew living in Nuremberg, Germany, in 1928, Karl Amson Joel, who owned one of the top textile firms in the country. When the Nazis rose to power, he was stripped of his citizenship and forced to relinquish the company just for being a Jew. He fled Germany with his family out of fear for their lives. By the time Carol finally settled in the United States with his wife and child, the textile company he had once owned was flourishing under another name, producing garments for the Nazi state, among them the infamous striped pajamas many of our ancestors wore in concentration camps. The irony is heartbreaking. Things could have been very different if someone had looked at him with humanity. But to the people in power at that time, he was just a Jew. In America, life was hard for Carol and his family. A new place, a new language, and the devastating grief of having to leave their own culture, their family, and whole support system behind, like all immigrants. Some people may relate to this. But they managed. Carl's son, Helmut, grew up in America, finished his studies, Americanized his name, and lost his German accent. Eventually, he got married and had kids of his own. But in his case, Helmut, his past had taken a toll on him. He was unable to express feelings. talk about his past as an immigrant child, or even keep his family together. And while he still loved playing the piano, he had learned to play back in Germany, he never dared to follow his dreams and make a career out of his musical inclinations. Instead, Helmut abandoned his wife and kids and went back to Europe to never return. The reasons for his heart hardening are understandable. I understand. While abandoning his family is hardly justifiable. So why do I tell you this? Because, as we mentioned earlier, remaining human and vulnerable requires a decision to remain open, to take action, instead of capitulating. Are you still with me? So it happened that Carl's grandson, Helmut's son, grew up with no father. But he did inherit many things from his father besides looks. William, Helmut's son, inherited his father's sensitivity and his love of music, especially the piano. Unlike his father, though, he was always a present father himself, living by the words, "Be the love you never received." Also, and thankfully, he did pursue his dreams and devoted his life to become a musician, creating amazing melodies and captivating lyrics that help him express what he could not express in everyday conversations, and therefore keeping his humanity alive. Furthermore, his songs helped millions of others connect with their own sensitivity because, as always, what goes around comes around. Actually, you might be part of the millions who heard his music. You might know William as Billy Joel, a former neighbor of ours here in Malibu, a proud Jew who gave us timeless classics, including Vienna, which he dedicated to his father when they reunited later in life, getting to know each other for the first time. New York State of Mind, right? Which coincidentally was the song of choice for Ralph Lauren New York collection last year, another son of Jewish immigrants, and of course, Piano Man, right? Mm-hmm. And the words in this last song tie perfectly with my underlying topic of seeing the humanity in others. In these lyrics, Billy describes a regular scene at a bar on a Saturday night, like Havdalah, Motzai Shabbat, but he does not describe the crowd as a whole. He looks at individuals. He looks at each one of them, and he gives names to each one of them, right? And personal stories, resurfacing their humanity and restoring them the human connection, the human condition. That same human condition that people failed to see in his grandfather, Carl, back in the day, along with many of our own grandparents. So, after we look inside ourselves and work to keep an open heart, I challenge you, and this one is trickier than looking inward and getting to know ourselves better, right? To get to know somebody else better. That's right. This year, I'm asking each and every one of you, to get to know someone better that you don't know that well now. And we can start in this very room and in our own community. You might assume that they are different from you, just like in the Billy Joel song, but go. Find out whether it is true. It could be a neighbor, an acquaintance, an employee, a coworker, somebody at your children's school, or some of your classmates if you are still attending school. I'm not forgetting about the little ones here. This is a challenge that we can all do. Or a fellow congregant whom you don't know. Invite them over for Shabbat. It happens every week, Shabbat. Or for a walk on the beach. We are in Malibu. Invite them for a walk on the beach. Just think of someone that you may have known for a while, but you don't truly know. So physical proximity does not necessarily mean closeness, right? How often do we pause to ask or wonder if they have a family, if they are people of faith, if they are happy, if there is someone they are missing, even more, if there is something we can maybe do for them. Sometimes it can even be our own family. Again, just like Billy Joel's story, we can think of this as part of the mitzvah of Ve'ahavta lereacha kamocha, loving your fellow human being as yourself, giving your fellow the sort of attention and consideration that you have for yourself. This principle is found in the Torah, and it was re-emphasized by the first century sage Rabbi Akiva as one of the foundational principles of Judaism. So why this exercise? Many reasons, to be honest. One is that changing and learning new things is one of the ability we lose most rapidly in life. So this exercise alone can benefit our cognitive state and help keep us stay sharp, believe it or not. It also forces us to step out of our beloved comfort zone, and that is always a good thing. Plus, it's safe. We are trying to find commonality and relatability in others, not to look for differences. Even if these differences are there, that's fine. That's valid. But most importantly, I deeply encourage you to take upon this challenge as a sincere attempt to revisit and rediscover our own shared humanity, one person at a time. Let's see them under a different light, from a point of view that is new to us. And maybe they will be open to seeing us differently. Amazing things can happen when you try to understand as opposed to judging. That's where empathy starts to appear. Empathy. And it's through empathy that real healing begins. Sometimes we are so busy or self-focused that we can go through life in autopilot, that it becomes easier to only see them outside of people. We have no idea some brave faces are battling inside. Just like at times they don't know what our souls are carrying either. When we look at people superficially, it becomes easy to put them into simplified and reductive categories. It is always easier to cultivate feelings of fear or hatred towards the one that's different from us than towards the one that seems like us. That's why finding the many or the few things that connect us all is vital. And so, instead of the uniquely diverse and rich community that I see in front of me today, to some people, we are just Jews. Yes, we are Jews, and proudly. And while that's at the core of our self-identity, we are so much more than that. We are Jonathan, we are Kevin, we are Isaac, we are Kevin, we are Divi, we are Eli. We speak different languages. We look different. We have different political views and different takes on many of the things going on in our community, in our country, and in our shared home of Israel. Listen to this, the mere creation of the state of Israel back in 1948 had our community split into supporters and opponents for a number of different reasons. Besides the theological one, which represented the question of whether or not to wait for the Messiah to guide us home, there were racial issues, political ones, but the state did still come about. And it serves now more to unite us than to divide us. So now, it's on us. Right now, Rosh Hashanah 5786, let's really try to connect for 5 minutes at least to understand their reality. You don't have to agree with them, but just listen and be open to broaden your vision. That's all. Believe me, you might be surprised by what you may find. Many times, I have been tempted to think that I've seen it all, and I find myself surprised by what I learn. Has this ever happened to you? Now, I am not so naive to think that we can find a human connection in everyone. Some souls may be too far gone for us to find in them any glimpse of humanity or compassion. But again, I choose to believe that most of us can. We can find hope and consolation in the new year by looking into ourselves and others. Also, we can pray. Let's pray more. Tefillah. Never underestimate the power of prayer. That is our direct line with God. And no other than God can deliver us from harm and guide us through times of turmoil and uncertainty, just like this. So pray in whatever shape or form that comes natural to you. Keep your personal connection with the Holy One alive and current. It's a powerful, powerful thing. And so, we come to the end of this Rosh Hashanah sermon. Let me have a drink. This is the first time I don't start with a funny story. See, I'm changing myself already. Let's work on making ourselves better this year, more compassionate, more understanding, more human. And let's celebrate 5786 from a new perspective. As a present this year, I thought about giving you old pianos, but was slightly out of our budget. So let's find it. Kaleidoscope it is. This beautiful device that consists of a tube, a set of small mirrors, and small pieces colored glass. Every little piece is different, imperfect, and multifaceted. But when combined, they give us a majestic vision that works as long as the pieces stay connected. If you divide them, the kaleidoscope is no longer. But until then, it will give a beautiful chaos of different colors, shapes, and patterns. Sometimes they overlap. Sometimes ones will shine more than the rest. And it's okay. They will still always give us beautiful and endless combinations for us to see. It's quite basic, but it's also profound. Each time we look at it and we turn it around, we see something completely different. It requires no wires, nor electricity, nor anything fancy. It is 100% Shabbat proof. A simple device based on science that is at the same time pure magic. And also reminds us that everything changes if we change the way we look at it. As long as we are willing to hold it up, look for the light, and keep on moving. So take it with you at the exit. Don't run now. We still have the Torah service. And look at it every once in a while. May you be reminded of everything you heard today. May we remain as human, vulnerable, and strong as we can, introducing a little more kindness into a world that so desperately needs it. May you be kind, brave, and curious, and fiercely open-hearted. But most of all, may you be a source for the love that the world needs. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe the next time a rabbi, a priest, and a minister walk into a bar, they will see nothing but minor differences and beautiful light connecting them. And they can all sit together and listen to a man playing the piano, laughing at the fact that the only joke is on the ones that ever tried to divide them. Shana Tova.